Hi, I'm Dr. Doug Weiss, and thank you for watching this segment on the differences between the male and female brain. Now, what a subject that's going to be. Can you imagine understanding that? For centuries, men have been trying to figure out the differences between the male and female brain. I have a great expert, Lee Gerdes, today. He's the founder and CEO of Cereset, which is really a great program to help balance the brain. He's going to help us understand some of this topic today. So stay tuned. Now, if you have not subscribed to our YouTube channel, please do, and hit that button. And also, if you have a question, send that to us. Welcome back. Hey, we're going to talk about how men and women's brains are different. But before we do, I want to introduce you to Lee Gerdes, the founder and CEO of Cereset. And Lee, first of all, thank you for being here. And it's good to talk to you. And we love Cereset here at Heart to Heart. We really do. We've had lots of clients have positive results. I've gone through it. I think my whole family's gone through it. And they're so much better now. We get along. It's great. But tell us a little bit about what Cereset is and what it does.
Cereset is a way that we use technology to help the brain basically to see itself. Mm. You know, the brain can actually see itself or see a cut in your hand, and it orchestrates needfully that healing of that cut, protection from bacteria, the new cells to close the gap, etc. But the brain doesn't see itself. So the brain has a major function in our life, and that's first and foremost to keep us alive. Fetal development, that's incredibly interesting. But in terms of what we see in the general public, the brain gets stuck. And it gets stuck because it reacts to keep us, it thinks it reacts to keep us alive. So if stressors are really great and we can get away from that stress by running, or we can get away from that stress by fighting, we go into a fight or flight mode. Blood's pushed to our extremities, brain, oxygenation increases, everything moves. On the other hand, when there's something we hit in life that's a huge stress, but we can do nothing about that. Somebody dies. Somebody betrays us. I can't do anything about those things.
Right.
And my brain then will move to help me maintain so I don't implode by going into a freeze response or a parasympathetic dominance. So what we help the brain to do is see itself so it can move and free itself from that stuck pattern.
And I've had clients who I can literally see it in their eyes. I can see the change. I can see them become what I call neuroplastic. They actually can start thinking instead of like just being stuck in one gear. So I know Cereset's very powerful. Give me maybe what does a balanced brain look like, feel like? What is it like to have one? You know, it's kind of like this is a coat many people have never worn.
I'll get a tune-up session myself every 6 weeks or something, and I'll come back in and tell the front desk, this is actually an illegal drug. I feel so. So don't tell anybody, because when you're functioning on all cylinders, and we got a lot of cylinders, when you're functioning on all cylinders, it makes a world of difference in how you think, what you think, how you feel, what you can feel. All of those things, it's night and day.
So, people have told me they feel more alive. And we've had people, their blood pressure changed by points. We've had people who've had pain in different places just stop. It's just that when these two guys get together and start working together, it just seems to have a cadence to it that makes people feel generally a sense of well-being, and I think that's kind of what you're saying. And so how about do you have maybe a story that's in your head, or that, man, when this guy came in, he was here, or this lady was here, but when they left, wow, when I've talked to them months later, years later, give me a story.
In the clinical trials for Cereset, I don't ever participate in them directly. I help choose the protocol to measure the patients coming into the clinical trial.
You're the researcher.
Yes, and I help choose the data analysis on the back end, but I'm not in the middle. Well, I happen to be at the office, though, and in Wake Forest School of Medicine when they were doing a study on insomnia. And I was in the men's room, and this guy came in, and he had seen my book. And he said, "Hey," he said, "aren't you Lee Gerdes?" And I went, "Oh, no."
I know, I've had many of those bathroom experiences. I know exactly what you're talking about.
You know,
It's
we
the
don't
weirdest
talk
thing,
anyway,
right?
right? We don't say anything. and I said, "Yeah." And the funny part was that he said, "I have had a sleep issue because I've been night shifting, and then, for the last 30 years. And my wife said, I think you better go. I heard the studies going on to help you sleep, and I think you better go try to get help sleeping, or I think you better have a bigger pickup that you can sleep in, because we ain't going to continue this down this road." And I was laughing, but he wasn't, and so I stopped laughing. He contacted the staff to have them contact me later, and wanted me to know that not only did this really save his marriage, but it probably made him, for the first time, a husband that he always wanted to be.
Sure, because if you're sleep deprived, you're not yourself. You're just not.
You're not yourself.
And for us, one of the major feedbacks we get with Cereset, even during the week, is, "Wow, I've never slept so good. Dr. Weiss, this is great." I go, "Yeah, I know. I've had the same experience. You just feel so rested and clear-minded, and it affects your heart. It affects all of what you do." And I think that, when people experience this, it's a totally different experience for each person. Now, we have men and women, and we want to talk about the difference between these two brains, okay? Talk about that a minute,
So the difference between a male and female brain is that the female brain has a corpus callosum that sort of runs down the middle effectively.
Okay.
And it can facilitate signals, or we call it energy or neuromodulation, left to right. Because it's more dense, it can do that much more quickly in a female than a male. Now, if you don't believe that, think about this. You've heard probably your wife's, hold the baby, talk on the phone, fix dinner.
Oh, yeah, we were in our office. She was doing all that. Yeah, absolutely.
She can do all that. And I just say that the hair stands on the back of my neck, right?
Right.
On the other side of it, you're watching something on TV, and she says, "Honey, what do you want?" Da-da-da, and no answer. "And honey, what do you want?" No answer. Well, it's not because he doesn't love her. It's because he can't hear her, because his brain doesn't work that way. She works really fast, and he doesn't. Now, the good news is she works really fast. And the bad news is she works really fast. Because when there's a trauma, it's like a fast pinball machine. Exactly.
Yeah, wow.
And so the
the
military measured, men and women deployed in the same way, basically behind the lines are in front, but deployed in the same way. And women were exactly, corpus callosum, 2 to 3 times more dense than the male for the female. The study showed 2.65 times more likely to have PTSD than the male.
Oh, wow.
You see, as men, we have a responsibility. And in faith, we're called to that responsibility. To be not the savior, but
protectors,
but to be the protector.
Ones that go to war.
Exactly.
Yeah, women aren't designed for that naturally.
Exactly.
Right.
And there isn't anything unique about that in terms of you can't change that.
Right. Yeah. One's a truck and one's a car. There's different designs. Right. I get that. But what you're describing to me makes so much sense, because I call it the all in. When women marry, they're all in. I mean, literally, they're totally trusting their husband with all of their heart, all their mind, all their spirit, all their sexuality. And so when that trauma hits of betrayal, it fractures the whole system. and what you're describing in the brain is it does. Okay, now with a guy, yeah, they're in it, but their identity is more in their work and their success, and they're spread out more, and it's more compartmentalized. So when they get hit, it's a little different. It's like, okay, this one area is bad, but like my whole life isn't bad because my wife made a bad decision. If it happens to the husband, their whole life is bad. And I think what you're telling me is that trauma affects all of that. And I know we're doing a conference, I can tell the ladies about this too, because it explains to me why women can be literally traumatized by betrayal.
We don't get that very well as men.
Mm-hmm. But we don't get a lot of things the way women.
But we don't get a lot of things.
Right. We don't get that.
And I think if we could just get that to be men,
mm-hmm.
we have to be responsible
mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
for what we have.
Yeah. Yes.
I think that would take us a long way.
Oh yeah, whole culture could change. Absolutely.
I think that could take us an awful long way.
Well, and it also makes sense, like, we go back to some of the, even from a spiritual perspective, be like, thou shalt not commit adultery. Well, that sounds kind of like, okay. But when you understand the trauma that happens to the woman's brain, spirit, soul, and body, it makes a whole lot more sense why it wasn't about sexuality at all. It's about protecting the whole organism called marriage, and then the woman and the man in it. So I'm glad we talked about the difference between men and women in brains, because this is just important. And I think that what you're doing with Cereset is really miraculous. It's really miraculous. Like, we really right here, now we're counselors, right? And for many years I've had the same team of counselors, 10, 15, 20 years. Some of these counselors have been in my office. And when we brought Cereset back into our building, we were all very happy, because we know how it helps us do our job. Because you can't help someone who's really stuck in the mud.
Right.
But if you can get them out of the mud, then they're much easier to work with, and they seem more reasonable and more intelligent, and we're not acting like 4-year-olds, right? And so I really want to say thank you for what you're doing. I mean, it's helping on our side. It's helping change people's lives. And so thank you for what you're doing. And if you're watching this and you feel like you need to get a step, maybe to even just get evaluated, find out. Because you can get your Monday test if you want and find out exactly how balanced your brain is or isn't. And if you want to do the whole rest of the thing, you can do the rest of the thing. But I really strongly encourage you, if you're feeling like this might be helpful for you, to reach out, call the office and make an appointment and get some help. Because Cereset, it really does help. And so please do that, take the next step for yourself.